Hey everybody! So I'm going to take a little bit of time in this video to explain the peer review assignment that you're doing this week. Alright, so if you're watching this video, that is the first step that is listed in the instructions. So you'll see under the video it says, for this assignment you will be conducting a peer review for one of your classmates. The instructions are outlined in the steps below. It is of the utmost importance that you go through each step in order to complete this assignment correctly. Okay? So, step 1, watch the video posted above. So hopefully that means you're doing that right now. Step 2, you should have completed this step when you submitted project part 3, but if not, you will want to send your draft to your assigned classmate now. If you did not do that, if you did not send your draft to your assigned classmate when you submitted project part 3, you'll need to find your name on the list below, find your name, and then go to the student listed directly underneath you and send your draft in an email, attach it in an email to that student. If you are the last student on the list, you will send your draft in an email to the first student on the list. Okay? So you do that. If you completed this step when you submitted project part 3, then you can move on to step 3. Step 3 is simply really more of a request. If you have not received a draft from someone by Tuesday of week 8, please let me know so that I can get involved and make sure that happens so that you have plenty of time to complete the peer review. Step 4. Once you have received an email from your classmate with their rough draft attached, you are ready to do the peer review assignment. You will then read their draft and fill out the peer review worksheet that's attached here in these assignment instructions. I'm going to go through those a little bit. I'm going to kind of explain the peer review worksheet here in just a couple minutes, but make sure you read all the sections in bold and all caps at the top of the worksheet first. Some of it is a little bit of a repeat of what's here in these instructions, but not all of it, okay? Step 5, once you have filled out the peer review worksheet, you will then upload the completed worksheet in this assignment spot here for the peer review assignment. Everyone's grade for the peer review assignment comes from the worksheet that you fill out after reading your classmate's rough draft. So in order to get the points for this assignment, you have to read their draft and fill out the worksheet. Okay? So what that means is, if you send your draft to your assigned classmate and they don't do the peer review assignment, it doesn't affect you in terms of your grade. They're the ones who will get a 0 for the peer review assignment because they didn't complete it. Now, you will lose out on their feedback, but you're still going to get my feedback on your rough draft, right? But just keep that in mind. The points for this assignment come from the worksheet that you fill out after you've read your classmate's rough draft. Okay? All right. So, let's go through the peer review worksheet itself a little bit. So again, everything that's there in bold, the reminders and those 5 steps or 4 steps is just a repeat of what I just went through, but it's there again on the peer review worksheet just in case you need a reminder, okay? But once you're ready to go, then you are going to fill out the worksheet itself. So part 1 is just general comments, right? So you're going to read the research paper all the way through, and then you're going to make note of any parts that are confusing or that you don't understand, or things that, were really good in your opinion. And you're just going to give an overall general response to the draft first and foremost. And you'll type that in there under the instructions for part 1, general comments. Okay? Part 2 is going to have you look at APA format. So does it have a title page? Is it properly formatted according to APA style? If not, explain. Does the essay have a header? Is it properly formatted? And remember, for student submissions, the only thing that's required in the header is just the page numbers in the top right corner. All right? Is the entire essay double-spaced? Question 4 there. APA style calls for no extra spaces at any time. So does the introductory paragraph begin immediately after the title on page 2? Does each paragraph begin immediately after the previous paragraph, or are there extra spaces there? Because there shouldn't be. Right? No extra space. All right? 5, is the last page of the essay the references page? Right? Part 3, we're looking at the introduction and thesis statement. So question 1 there, what technique does the writer use to grab our attention? Question 2, how effective is that introduction? Did it grab your attention? Does it make you want to read more? Why or why not? How could the introduction be improved? Give the writer a suggestion. Question 3, does the introductory paragraph contain a thesis statement? You should be able to clearly identify it. Remember, it should be an actual sentence, not something that you have to put in your own words, but an actual sentence in the introduction. Like, you should literally be able, you're going to copy and paste that thesis statement or retype it, and if you can't identify it, then make that clear, right? It should be the last sentence of the introductory paragraph, but don't just go to that last sentence and copy and paste it. Make sure the last sentence actually is a thesis statement, right? If it's not, look somewhere else in the introductory paragraph. Maybe they didn't put it at the end, right? If you don't find one anywhere in that introductory paragraph, then state that, right? Just remember, first and foremost, the thesis statement should be an actual sentence, not something that you have to sort of put in your own words, right? Question 4, is there a smooth transition to the thesis statement? In other words, does the rest of the introductory paragraph sort of lead us into that thesis statement, or does it just seem to be sort of plopped in and unconnected? Part 4, we're going to be looking at the content and organization of the essay. So I want you to make, in question 1 here, I want you to make a brief outline of your partner's paper, right? So just a couple words or phrases, thesis statement, what their first main point is, what were the main ideas they used to support that first main point, what's their second main point, what are the ideas they used to support that one, what's their third main point, what ideas did they use to support that one, what's their final thought there in the concluding paragraph, so just a very brief outline, just words and phrases to signify how the essay was structured. All right. Question 2, are the paragraphs arranged logically? Could they be arranged differently to make more sense? If so, how? Question 3, does each paragraph have a clear transitional topic sentence? Do the transitions help guide us from one paragraph to the next? Like that first sentence of this paragraph, does it remind us of what just came before it, as well as tell us what this paragraph's focus is? Right? Does it relate back to the thesis statement too? Right? Does it cover one of the ideas, one of the main points listed in the thesis statement? Has the writer unfolded, this is question 4, has the writer unfolded, meaning have they fully explained each idea in enough detail, right? Is it clear and interesting? Is every point developed fully enough to be clear and convincing? Or are there places where readers would appreciate a more detailed explanation or more evidence, right? Question 5, how well does the paper stay on topic? Are all the ideas directly relevant to the main point of the essay, the thesis statement? Or does the writer go off topic anywhere, right? Part 5 is all about looking at how they have integrated material from their sources. So question 1, reread the body of the paper. Is there too much evidence from sources? Not enough evidence from sources? Remember, the balance should be about 80% of their own ideas and words and about 20% from their sources. That's a flexible ratio, but you certainly want to keep it in that ballpark. The majority of the essay should be that student's own ideas and words, with a small portion coming from their source material. So the question here is, have they used too much source material? Is it really just the majority of the essay just repeating information from sources and not enough of the writer's own ideas? Question 2. Does the writer provide enough connecting sentences in the paper that explain or interpret or analyze the evidence that they're using from their sources? Are they explaining the source material and connecting it back to their thesis statement? Question 3. How well does the writer integrate summary, paraphrase, and direct quotes into their writing? Does the source, even if it's a direct quote, however it's being used, does the source material feel like a natural part of the writer's voice, and like they just lead right into the source material? Or does it seem more like the source material has just been sort of dropped into the paragraph? Right? Question 4. Does the writer provide a proper APA parenthetical citation for any source material that's used? List any spots where a citation seems missing or seems to be formatted wrong. Okay? Alright. Part 6 is looking at the concluding paragraph. So, question 1, how well does the writer conclude the paper? Do they provide a final analysis or interpretation of their main points, hopefully without repeating exactly what the wording of it was in the thesis statement and introduction? Have they reminded us of it without repeating themselves word for word? Right? Are we left with a final comment or a final thought? You as a reader should be left with something that will make you keep thinking about the topic. So explain if you think the conclusion was thoughtful or not. And if necessary, maybe give some suggestions for how to improve that conclusion. Part 7, we're going to look at some general overall considerations. Question 1, does the paper feel jumpy or choppy? Does it just seem to go from one idea to the next without any flow, without things being connected and, flowing smoothly from one section to the next? Is the paper written in third-person formal language? Are there any places where the writer uses the personal pronoun I, like I feel or in my experience, right? Because remember, APA style calls for a formal third-person voice, right? You can sometimes refer to your own personal experiences to help support a main point, but you have to do so in a formal manner. So go through the draft and make sure that the author has not used personal pronouns inappropriately. Question 3, after reading this paper, would you say that you have learned something worth knowing? Did the writer inspire interest in the topic? Alright, part 8, in the last part, we're going to look at the references page. So, question 1, does the essay have a references page? Is it the last page of the essay, a page all its own? Question 2, is the word references centered at the top of the page? 3, is the references page double-spaced? Remember, the whole essay from start to finish, title page through references page, should be double-spaced. Question 4, are the sources listed alphabetically according to the first word of each entry? They should not be numbered and they should not appear in a random order. They should be alphabetized according to the first word of each entry. Question 5. Does the author use a hanging indent per APA style? So remember, every entry should begin over at the left margin. And you start typing that entry, and then if you come down to another line of text, that second line of text needs to be indented. So it's the exact opposite of a paragraph, right? A paragraph, the first sentence of the paragraph gets indented. You hit the tab key once, and then you start typing, and all the other sentences come out to the left margin. You're going to flip that for your reference entries. The entry begins at the left margin. All other lines for that entry are indented. Does it have a hanging indent? Question 6. Are there any entries that appear incorrect? You do not have to check each entry, but if there are any errors that seem really big and obvious to you, point them out. And then number 7, I want you to go back through the essay one more time and look at the parenthetical citations. And remember that any source that's used in the essay, that's cited in the essay, must appear on the references page. So look at that. Look at all of their citations. Do those sources appear on the reference page? Right? Every source that's listed on the reference page needs to be cited at least once in the essay. So look at all those sources that they have listed on the reference page. Did you see a citation, at least one citation for each one on the list? Point out any discrepancies that you see. Do you see any citations in the essay for a source that does not appear on the reference list? Because that means they may have forgotten to put a source on their list, or maybe the citation is wrong, or the reference entry is wrong, therefore they're not matching up, right? You don't have to figure out what the exact problem is, but point out any problems you think you recognize, okay? All right. Finally, do you see any sources on the reference page that aren't cited somewhere in the essay? All right, so just doing a little bit of detective work, looking a little closely there at the sources they have listed and the citations that are supposed to go with each of those sources, okay? And again, you don't have to know exactly what's wrong, just point out something that seems wrong, right? So, it's a very, very involved process. But please do your best to answer every question for your peer. The more information and feedback you give them, the more they have to work with. But more importantly, the more effort you put into answering these questions about their draft, the more you're going to come to understand any problems in your own draft. If you're going through this person's essay and you're like, oh man, yeah, their paper does seem kind of choppy. It doesn't have much flow and things are just randomly, main points are randomly discussed. Oh my gosh, I think I did that too. Or you're reading your peer's draft and you're like, oh man, this flows so well. Just one idea right into the next. Everything is just tied together so well. That's something I need to work on. So it helps them because they're getting your feedback, but it also helps you because whether or not the draft you're reading needs a lot of work or is already really strong, you're going to benefit from answering these questions to the best of your ability. You're going to learn something along the way. Okay? Don't feel like you can't do this. Don't feel like you're not qualified to provide feedback. You're all in the same boat. You've all been learning the same things over the last 7-8 weeks. You're all aware of what is supposed to happen in a research paper. You all have the ability to read an essay and know if it was confusing, right? You have the ability to read something and know if it was explained exceptionally well. Right? You do not have to be a perfect writer to know how to offer feedback on what someone else has written. You can do this. Alright? Do your best. Okay? Remember, you're getting graded on completing the worksheet for your classmate who sent you their draft. Okay? Once you submit the completed peer review worksheet on Brightspace in the assignment spot, I will then take care of getting the review worksheet back to your peer. Okay? I'll take care of all that. Alright, so if you have any questions, let me know. If you run into any problems, reach out. Otherwise, just do your best and know that you have ideas and responses worth contributing on the peer review. Okay? Alright, good luck, guys.